Peace, family. It's BroLogas. On this Spiritual Sunday, we're going to talk about the fundamentals of spirituality. Now, the reason why we're going on the fundamentals is because what I've learned from my father growing up was how important understanding, knowing, and mastering the fundamentals were to mastering anything. Why do I say that? Because I was playing football all my life, from age 7 years old all the way till 22 when I graduated college, right? Played all those years, 15, 16 years. And I moved around a lot as a child because my parents are in the military. So we went from being in Maryland to playing football in Texas, to playing in Louisiana, to playing in South Korea, to playing in Virginia, right? And of course, with all this moving around, my mom, she was the one that was in the Air Force. My father, he would always change jobs, right? So, and then I had 3 other younger brothers and sisters. So in the beginning, when they were really young and I was young, you know, he did a lot of, he taught me the fundamental, the basics, and he really drilled into me the basic concepts to playing football. So then as we moved around and he had less and less time to try to train me and to exercise with me, I was able to adapt to all the different types of players, all different types of athletes. And then going into Texas, places like Texas, Louisiana, the guys are like 100 feet tall, it seems, and seem to mature so much faster. And I know spiritually and physically why that is, because of the location next to the equator. It would become difficult to keep up with these guys. But the one thing that would allow me to keep up with their skill level was my fundamentals. So even when I ran into guys who were lightning speed, when I ran into guys who were super strong or super big, right, it would just blow me out the water when it came to just raw ability, raw talent. I was able to compete and a lot of times defeat a lot of those guys, even when I was told at one point that going into my junior year that I probably wouldn't even make the JV squad. But the fundamentals, I always went back. Whenever I felt like my game was off, I always went back to the fundamentals. And every time I did that, my game would explode and I was able to compete with anybody on any level, no matter how much talent they might have or how many extra tricks they might have known. The fundamentals is what always kept me sound and allowed me to compete all the way up into the college level. So I've taken that same ideology, that same concept, that same principle, because it's all about principles. Principles are the things that can be transferred over into any arena, into any level. Certain skills, certain tricks, certain abilities can't transfer over to every level, but principles can. So the same way how I learned from football to take those fundamentals and transfer them over to every level, whether it be elementary, Pop Warner, whether it be high school, whether it be the college level. If I would have continued on and went to the NFL, I would have took those same principles with me. But instead, I went into the speaking career, and the first thing I did going to speaking in the speaking field was let me learn the fundamentals of speaking. Let me take the Toastmasters. Let me watch phenomenal speakers like Les Brown, Jim Rohn, E.T. the Hip Hop Preacher, Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, Bob Proctor. Let me study these guys. Let me study myself. So now it doesn't really matter what I teach. In fact, the speaking part transfers over into anything, into sales, into being able to speak to your lover, your partner, your children. I was able to transfer over my speaking abilities, my speaking skills and concepts over into any arena into my life so that I could be more successful. It doesn't mean that you're always going to be successful. Because understand, you're not the only one playing a part in every arena. But it does give you the opportunity to be successful when you got down the basic principles to anything. So we're going back to the principles of spirituality. And I want to share these with you. The first basic principle to spirituality that was taught to me by a very wise woman was that spirituality is spontaneous. Now, not that one's it can be challenging because we are taught everything is rigid. And when we're talking about principles, you're thinking about rigid. Like it needs to be done this way, it needs to be set up this way, the rituals need to be done this way, the prayers or the spells need to be said this way. You cannot deviate from the structure. But the actual structure, the spirituality, is spontaneity. Why is that? Because spirituality transfers over into every possible reality that exists, which what they say is the infinite amount of realities. If that's the case, it's important for you to be spontaneous with your spirituality. Learn some of the basic ideas, but be spontaneous. Allow yourself to move through concepts. Allow yourself to make things up based off of the basics. So that's the other one, is knowing the basics to the metaphysical realm. We're talking about knowing how the stones work. We're talking about knowing how the herbs work. We're talking about knowing how grids work. Just the concept of them. We're talking about geometric shapes. Let's learn the concept, the idea behind them. We're talking about learning how prayers work, how spells work. You want to understand the basic fundamentals of how these things work. You want to know how what colors mean, what numbers mean, what the days of the week mean, what the zodiacs mean, what the planets represent. This way, if you have all of this information and knowledge, how the metals, different metals work. If you know, when I say how they work, let me break it up. When I say how they work, I'm talking about the characteristics of them. The same thing is knowing the characteristics or the mineral content of an apple, of a watermelon, of a Cheeto. Knowing these things are important because if you understand how the Cheeto with the cheese and the fake chemicals, and then you understand how that cheese and those fake chemicals affect your gut lining, affect the bacteria in your body, affect your cellular membrane wall inside of your body, affect your blood, then you'll understand how it affects your health. And if it affects your health, you'll understand how it affects your brain and the way you think and perceive things. Therefore, it affects your personality. Therefore, it affects your abilities on a physical level. But that also means it affects your abilities on a spiritual level. It muddies up your antenna, the antenna that allows you to receive that God download, to receive the messages. Which is why a lot of us are having a hard time trying to figure out, what is God trying to teach us? What are the deities trying to teach us? What are our ancestors trying to teach us? How are they trying to guide us? Why are they not protecting us? They are at all times, but you're just not able. I'm not saying you're not listening, but you're not able to hear them. If you have cotton stuck in your ear, no matter how much you want to listen to what your parents are trying to guide you in, you're not going to be able to hear them. So knowing that how food works, the same thing as like knowing how the stones work. The stones are just minerals. Same thing with the apple. Same thing with the watermelon. They're just minerals. Same thing with the rice. They're just minerals. Stimulating your body to do certain functions. The same thing with the stone. Same thing with the sages, the herbs, the palo santo. Same thing with the colors. They're just stimulating what's already inside. They're activating you. It's a very important principle to understand. The next principle to understand is what's the difference between stimulating your energy centers, whether it be the chakras, whether it just be any of your cells. Each cell in your body has spiritual centers in it. So you got spiritual centers all throughout your body. That's why acupuncture is so popular and so well known and so extremely practiced, so thoroughly practiced. You have energy centers going throughout your whole body. The chakras are just the big ones. We'll say it that way. But what's the difference between stimulating them and unblocking them? Those are two different things. Stimulating is when you have stones around you. You burn sages. You get things moving. So no matter how much gunk is in the way, no matter how dormant that certain aspect of you is, that food or that mineral will stimulate you and allow you to do what you are trying to do to achieve the effect you're trying to achieve. So let's bring it back. Can't you just fast and not eat? Doesn't that cure the body? And in fact, when people are trying to become more in touch with God, don't they fast, stop eating? What is that doing? That's allowing your body to remove the block, because the food is just stimulation. We don't even really need food in the first place, but that's a whole nother topic. At the moment we do. So I wouldn't recommend you stop eating. But ultimately we don't. But you remove the food and then you allow God to come in. It's the same thing. We break spiritual contracts. These spiritual energies that we have grown attached to, that are stimulating certain aspects of us, just like the apple or the watermelon and everything, but then they're dormanting or blocking other aspects of us. Some spirits are more detrimental. They're like the Cheetos. They're like the Doritos, right? They're like the dairy products. Some are healthier, they're helpful, like the peaches, like the mangoes, like the asparagus. But there's still a certain level of blockage going on because it's a stimulating overall. It's still a stimulation. So if we break the contracts, we break the food cycle, we remove everything out the way, and now we allow God to come in instead of trying to force God to come in. Very important principle. The difference between stimulating and unblocking is actually breaking the spiritual ties to certain deities, spirits, ancestors, or you can call them, or demons in some cases. Actually breaking that bond, or even people's spirits, breaking that contract. I won't even say bond, contract. That's a permanent fix versus doing a Reiki clearing. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's temporary. So, another principle is understanding what are these spiritual contracts. These spiritual contracts, another way you can call them denials. You can call them idols, like in the Bible, thou shalt not have any idols that come before me, something like that. So these are some basic ways that you can look at it. These are negotiations that you made subconsciously. Sometimes we make them consciously. Some people sell their soul for it. Right? It's a more of a physical, but still on a spiritual level type of contract. Sometimes they're passed down to us from past lives or just from our other ancestors, people in our family. This is by DNA. But understanding this principle of what it is, it lets you know no matter what name I change it to, idols, contracts, denials, we can see its reference points and know that it's not good for you. Even if it's from an energy or deity that might have your best interests in mind, ultimately at some point you have to get your power back if you truly want to unlock yourself and get the closest to God. Because yes, you want to go to the pastor to help you get close to God, but at some point you got to move the pastor out the way and you got to create that relationship with God, because no one can create a strong relationship with God than you, whoever that God may be to you. And if you're trying to find that God, at some point you got to move the guru out the way. That's what I try to help you do, is not to rely on me, but to use me until you can get there yourself. And then we can build. And then you can teach me some things. Make sense? Now the next principle is a very simple one. As above, so below. As without, so within. So Everything that's happening outside of you, it represents everything that's happening within you, including the people around you. So then you say, well, wait a minute, I'm positive. I'm doing things the right way. I'm this, I'm that. I wouldn't disagree with that. But it has nothing, or it has, what you do is only part of the equation. What you're doing represents a certain aspect of your spiritual self. But what about the spiritual contracts that are blocking you? They're still there no matter how good of a person you are. Therefore, you're seeing that blockage from outside of you. And you're seeing how it affects you. You're seeing how it's affecting your money, how it's affecting your business, how it's affecting your job, how it's affecting your family, how it's affecting you and your lover, how it's affecting your friendships, how it's affecting your health, how it's affecting your fitness. As without, so within. As above, so below. The next important spiritual principle to know is to make the spiritual lessons fit your understanding, your personal understanding. Make it as simple as you can for yourself. People who are teaching it from a level that they understand. And we try to do our best to bring it to a level that we think everyone else can understand. But not everyone else is us. Not everyone lives in the same reality. So you have to try to translate. Okay, they're saying it this way. What does that mean in my world? Or more importantly, what does that look like in my world? Can you find anywhere in this life where what I'm saying or talking about when it comes to spirituality, where it fits in your personal experience or what you've seen other people experience? Can you make it simple and can you make it fit you? And then can you explain it in a way, in your own way? Maybe your own way is based off of what you have heard and because you understand it really well. You should be able to at least add a little bit of something else to it. But ultimately, can you say it in your own way? Because if you can say it in your own way, then you've mastered it. Then you understand it. Then you can build upon it. Then you can start to add your own concepts to it because, like I said, there's an infinite amount of realities, which means there's an infinite amount of information, which means no matter how much I spew out, there are things that I'm never going to say. Things I'm probably never going to know. Which means all the gurus before me, there's things that they didn't know. There's things that they didn't say. And I'm going to say it. And other people are going to say it. And just like Jesus said, when he's talking about all the great feats that he did, it's going to be people after him who are going to do feats just as great and better. So if you're a Christian, and Jesus said that, then what does that mean for the rest of us? Right? There's always going to be a guru that does better than us at some point. And the last spiritual principle I want you to take with you is there's this concept that this is a simulation that we live in. This physical world is not real. And to an extent, I agree. But here's a little piece of advice to take with you. Nothing is real in this life except what is real to you. So what that means is none of this is real. You're right. But if it's real to you, if you feel like it's affecting you, if it's making you feel the way that you don't want to feel, then it's real to you. You've accepted it. It's making you feel the way that you want to feel, then you've accepted it. It's real to you. It's real. Something that's real to me might not be real to you. Also understand this, if you say it's not real, but it's still affecting you, and you can't move beyond it, and it's still especially negatively affecting you, then it's still real to you. And you have not reached that level, which mostly has to do with you have not unblocked yourself enough to move beyond that unreal thing. So essentially, all real things are blockages, and all unreal things is the areas that you've been cleared spiritually in. I hope that makes sense. This is my sermon for today. And I'll catch you guys tomorrow in the next video. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. And I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as possible. Peace.